In this podcast episode, Sean Strickland, current UFC middleweight champion and one of the sport's most outspoken figures, shares an unfiltered and deeply personal account of his life, career, and worldview. The conversation spans his tumultuous childhood, military experience, mental health struggles, views on politics and society, and his relationship with faith and family. Sean's candidness sheds light on his journey from a troubled youth to MMA champion, his philosophy toward fighting and life, and his reflections on the cultural and political divides in America. Sean Strickland's early life was marked by profound hardship and trauma. Growing up in an abusive household, he endured severe social anxiety and neglect. His father was an alcoholic, prone to violent outbursts, and at times controlled his mother through intimidation. From a very young age, Sean was traumatized by the chaos and violence, which shaped both his psyche and his worldview. He recalls early memories of his father threatening harm and the anxiety of fearing for his mother's life nightly. School was a struggle not just academically but emotionally, as Sean was frequently absent, bullied, and involved in fights, leading to multiple expulsions and periods of homeschooling. Sean developed a deeply ingrained hatred and violent disposition as a coping mechanism. Influenced negatively by his grandfather, a deeply racist and tough old man, Sean initially embraced racist ideologies, but later grew out of them, understanding that his anger was rooted in pain rather than true hatred. His early adolescence was characterized by antisocial behavior and frequent altercations, culminating in criminal charges and jail time. It was clear his environment left him with little guidance, social skills, or hope for a conventional life. Fighting became the outlet and the only source of happiness Sean ever experienced. Starting training as a young teenager, he found the gym community offered him a sense of belonging and purpose. Despite enduring frequent beatings early on, the physical and mental challenge of martial arts provided a positive focus and helped dissipate some of his deeply rooted anger. Around the same time, Sean considered joining the military as a way to reclaim dignity and purpose. Though initially rejected due to his legal history and lack of a high school diploma, he was determined to find a way. Sean's experience with the military world began with a candid perspective on SEAL teams and special operations. He was skeptical at first, but came to respect the dedication, sacrifice, and brotherhood of operators who serve without seeking fame or fortune. He describes the grueling physical and mental challenges of military training, such as cold water immersion, brutal marches, and constant pressure to perform. His military mindset overlaps with his fighter's mentality, a relentless drive to survive and excel in extremely challenging situations. Both Sean and the host reflect deeply on mental health struggles, including depression, suicidal ideation, PTSD, and the impact of trauma across their lives. Sean shares raw admissions about battling violent and dark thoughts, describing graphic mental imagery he uses to cope with intrusive or shameful thoughts. He talks frankly about episodes where he contemplated suicide multiple times, including nearly shooting himself with a revolver and an incident involving carbon monoxide poisoning via his car in the garage. Sobriety remains central to his ability to survive psychologically. He stresses how alcohol and drugs, while seemingly offering temporary relief, only deepen despair and lead many down destructive paths. Sean emphasizes the importance of emotional grounding, often crediting his wife for helping anchor him and prevent relapse or self-harm. Despite grappling with violent impulses and existential questions about life and death, he is candid that the only times he's felt true peace or happiness came through fighting and meaningful struggle. Sean's views on religion are nuanced but skeptical. He identifies as agnostic, believing in some form of intelligent design, but rejecting organized religion's dogma. He candidly discusses early childhood crises of faith during traumatic experiences and wrestles with theological contradictions, particularly the exclusive claims of major religions like Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Yet he respects faith for many and admires Christianity's foundational role in American culture. The conversation touches on the continuing cultural shifts away from traditional Christian values in America. Sean admires the heritage and structure religion has provided global and national societies, but also recognizes growing secularism and moral decay. He shares reflections on how faith, identity, and morality intertwine, and how many people, especially those with traumatic backgrounds, struggle to find spirituality that resonates with their lived experience. Sean and the host dive into a broad and candid discussion around American politics, social fragmentation, and cultural issues. They discuss immigration policies, particularly illegal immigration, and its effects on wages and society. Sean explains from a pragmatic investor's viewpoint how illegal immigration benefits wealthy elites through increased housing demand and labor supply, but harms working-class Americans by devaluing jobs and services. They critique the erosion of traditional American values, the effects of social media, film industry agendas, and political correctness. Sean believes much of the country has become morally bankrupt and desensitized to violence and suffering. They discuss how political movements can be divisive, referencing figures like Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk, and caution against extreme conspiracy theories while recognizing the influence of powerful lobbies such as IPAC and the military-industrial complex. The conversation touches on various controversies, including 9/11 narratives, the role of Israel in American foreign policy, and the complicity or manipulation by political leaders. They stress the complexity of global conflicts and warn against simplistic explanations or scapegoating groups. The discussion reflects a distrust of mainstream media and political establishments while advocating for critical thinking and openness to questioning prevailing narratives. Sean speaks candidly about his UFC career, financial realities, and fight mindset. He reveals the predatory nature of UFC contracts, especially for lower-tier fighters who often make meager pay with no guarantees and endure intense pressure to accept short-notice fights. He shares frustrations with UFC management, especially the matchmaker Sean Shelby, highlighting how fighters can be benched or forced into unfavorable situations. He describes his love for fighting as both a profession and a necessary outlet for his intense mindset. Fighting camps provide structure and focus. Inactivity causes him to spiral. Sean admits he thrives on misery and conflict, performing his best when feeling challenged and under pressure. His mental attitude inside the cage includes being resigned to tough circumstances, but still pursuing the chance of opportunity and victory. Sean also reveals personal stories from fight preparation, including grueling weight cuts and training with military veterans. He reflects on how fighting has saved him from destructive paths and institutionalization. Despite the violence, he does not glorify war, but appreciates its adrenaline rush and the honor among warriors. Sean's relationship with his wife represents a major turning point in his life. They met on Tinder, initially worlds apart socially and culturally. His wife comes from a stable, educated Christian family, providing a stark contrast to Sean's chaotic upbringing. Sean recounts his emotional vulnerability when meeting her family for the first time, battling illness and mental strain while trying to connect. His wife's influence has been crucial in helping him mature, encouraging investment, sobriety, and emotional growth. Sean talks about plans for children and the challenge of reconciling his residual kid mentality with the responsibilities of fatherhood. He is open about fears around parenting and the hope to raise children better than he was raised. Sean also portrays the balancing act of embracing his raw, unfiltered identity while adapting to new social expectations. His candidness about mental health, vulnerability, and family dynamics highlights a man striving to evolve and give back, often recognizing his own limitations and past mistakes. The podcast touches on Sean's views on guns, everyday carry, and a notable real-life incident caught on his home Ring camera. Sean carries Sig Sauer firearms, specifically praising the 365 subcompact for concealed carry and a variety of Sig rifles for home defense. He discusses the pros and cons of different calibers and ammunition types, especially in terms of stopping power and over-penetration risk. He shares a story of confronting a man outside his Vegas home whom he believed was attempting to steal his truck. What transpired involved police communication, a domestic violence suspect, and Sean ultimately assisting the man by changing his tire. This moment reveals Sean's complex attitude toward violence and mercy, prepared for conflict but capable of empathy. The conversation also includes stories of active shooter simulators in video games and the role of firearms training and mental preparedness for high-stress confrontations. He expresses disinterest in gun tribalism, advocating a practical approach to firearms as tools rather than symbols. Both Sean and the host delve into experiences with combat scenarios and military service. They recount intense gunfights, sniper missions, and patrols under fire. The discussion reveals the stark contrasts between public perceptions of war and the brutal reality of life-risking operations. Sean remarks on the psychological toll of combat, the mental demands to stay focused under pressure, and the calm that can come with repeated exposure to danger. He reflects on how fighting in the cage shares similarities with combat, requiring mental fortitude, adaptability, and a resolve to persevere even when odds are against you. They also discuss the cultural divide between military veterans and the civilian world, noting the sacrifices many operators make with little recognition or reward. The theme of brotherhood and respect among warriors is emphasized as a dwindling form of masculine identity in contemporary society. Throughout the interview, Sean articulates a strong desire to find meaning beyond fighting. He expresses hope to use his platform and resources to help others, especially at-risk youth and communities in need. Giving back represents, to him, a kind of peace and fulfillment previously unknown. Despite his unfiltered and often grim outlook, Sean acknowledges the power of small acts of kindness and the potential to influence future generations positively. Raising a family, staying true to oneself, and maintaining integrity remain central themes to his evolving philosophy. The episode closes with Sean's gratitude for the journey and acknowledgement of his ongoing struggles, physical, mental, and spiritual, but with a commitment to continue fighting, not just inside the cage, but in life.